Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
What is good? What is good? What is good? Welcome to Game Over Crossover, hosted on the Game Over Vancouver channel. But wait, who's in the host chair? It's not Kaja tonight, it's Avery with my guest as Kaja May as the Edmonton Oilers knocked off the Vancouver Canucks 7-3 in a much needed road victory. And tonight's show is very Whitecaps number 8 seed playing in Portland. With Portland being number nine seed, MLS humor for you who watched Vancouver win a quasi home game in Portland, a game in which Edmonton got goals from Draisaitl, Brett Kulak. The Oilers' third and fourth lines had better nights. Stuart Skinner had a bounce back game tonight for Edmonton. It was a game in which Edmonton's pressure was too much for Vancouver, and Vancouver just couldn't settle things down in the second and third period. The dam burst after making this a 3-2 game. And we also had a jersey toss at the end of this game in Vancouver. Kaja, they're already tossing jerseys in Vancouver. Already doing jersey tosses, Kaja? How you doing tonight?
Okay. Hi. Thank you, Avery, for graciously hosting this episode about a game that definitely happened in Rogers Arena. The jersey toss, a lot of people are saying it's like, oh, it's a fake fan, not a real fan. I saw one tweet, I hope to one day throw my jersey on the ice money. But somebody said tickets aren't cheap, and honestly, I kind of agree with that. And the Canucks, specifically at home, haven't had a record. The one team they beat was by 1 goal against the Pittsburgh Penguins. So it's not like they have all the Stanley Cup contenders. No, like, you are losing to, okay, they lost OT to Calgary, shootout to Philly. They beat Pittsburgh at home, lost in OT 4-3 to the Hurricanes, lost 6-0 to the Devils, and then 7-3 tonight. They're 1-5 at home. 1-5 in their own building. I understand being mad. The jersey throw is like, it's a bit too soon. Maybe wait a little bit. At the same time, Canucks need to know what 60 minutes is. Like, that, it's just...
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a game that definitely, probably not the weirdest thing to happen in Rogers Arena this week, because Usher did have 2 nights here, but it's on the top of the list. It's near the top of the list.
I would say the average Canuck fan probably had more fun at Usher than tonight's game. I'd assume that very much so, Kaja.
I was there, can confirm, probably would.
Oh, there you go. And you know what show I'm sure is going to get into the jersey tossing? Our flagship show, Hyperdrive Hockey. So, you out there in Game Over Land, please make sure to check out our flagship show, Hyperdrive Hockey. They cover all things hockey across various leagues, multiple countries, whatever it is and wherever it is, they got you covered. Max, Daphne, and Kevin are going to keep you up to date with hockey news and a dose of fun and engagement. You can find Hyperdrive Hockey on the Game Over Network YouTube channel or wherever you find your favorite podcasts, and head to the Hyperdrive Hockey page on the GameOverNetwork.com. There we go. But yeah, this is the game, Kaja. It started off in which Edmonton was able to get on the power play early. Didn't score on the power play. This is a team in which power play is still in a major way, a lot of Weenie Hut Jr. action going on, but they were able to get a decent cycle going. Power play ends, and Leon Draisaitl, side of the net, cashes in, scores on Kevin Lankinen, and Leon Draisaitl, even though this team has struggled on the man advantage, Kaja, he is still finding ways to get to the net and finding ways to score, and once again, causing havoc to Vancouver.
Yeah, what is it about Draisaitl? like I understand he's Leon frickin' Draisaitl,
Yes.
but what is it about his aura that just scares the living hell out of the Vancouver Canucks? Like I have been a Canucks fan my entire life. I have not seen a single player do that to this team ever.
It
So he's just he's on a different level. Obviously, he's once again Leon frickin' Draisaitl. He's just on a different level, and the Canucks. Honestly, I don't think they were prepared to play a game tonight.
like it was a game in which Edmonton once again they got their shots on net on Lankinen, and you're right though. Draisaitl has played very well against Vancouver, like he has done. I mean, it hasn't been as dominant against Vancouver like it has been against Nashville, a team in which he's tormented over the past 5 years with on a relentless pace. But stopping that Edmonton power play should have been, or stopping the cycle, is something that Vancouver couldn't do. And when a team like Edmonton has struggled to have a decent cycle all game long, it's an indictment on Vancouver's D so far this year, Kaya.
Oh, yeah, our defense has just not been there, and especially tonight, they had seven defensemen playing. They went 11 and 7, and their defense was still like Swiss cheese. I have like is it bad that the best, I would say honestly, our best defenseman tonight was Tyler Myers? Like I don't even know. Like, yeah, sure, Phil Peronic got a goal. Tyler
Mm-hmm.
Myers was the only one. I know plus minus isn't a good metric to track, but Tyler Myers is the only one in the positives there. Like, he's a plus one, and Carson Susie's a zero. Brandstrom and Juleson are both -3. Like, I just have no idea what is going on with that with our decor right now because I feel like that's been a conversation kind of where it was like, oh yeah, we have this depth, we have all this, we brought in Desharnais, we have Brandstrom now, and they re-signed Hronik to a deal he doesn't deserve, and then they perform like this. Is it something about Rogers Arena that they just don't care? Like,
Yeah,
and if your 40 goal scorer is out indefinitely, you're not outscoring your problems. Anyway.
it's a very good point. It's an issue for Vancouver, and it's a game in which Drysdale's goal opened things up. Edmonton comes in again, and then Edmonton's depth, which we've heard a lot, of course, in our Discord channels online. Edmonton's depth is not doing enough. It's not getting enough. Edmonton makes it a 2-0 game. Corey Perry gets another goal this year on helpers from Derek Ryan and Matthias Janmark. Two players who have had tough starts, but on a tic-tac-toe passing play, they get to Perry. Perry cashes in, and this was a game in which Edmonton's depth broke out. And if you're the Canucks, this was an awful look considering the fact that for most of this year, Edmonton's bottom six scoring has not been good.
Yeah, no, I was like, I was admittedly I was had to listen to
Mm-hmm.
some of the game on the radio, and
Yes.
they're like mentioning all the players, and I'm like all the players that are making a difference throughout the game, and I'm like, okay, I thought that these were the bad depth people. What is happening? Um, I think another issue for the Canucks was the Oilers really were able to score pretty quickly, I'd say. Like they scored in bunches. I mean,
Yes.
Draisaitl was like right after the power play. Perry and Arvidsson score a minute and 13 seconds apart, and then the Connor Brown, Connor McDavid, Brett Kulak, and Connor Brown again all happens within 5 minutes. Near the beginning of the third period.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just the Canucks have no idea how to. I mean, they showed some promise. I mean, with the Patterson and Hronik goals later in the second, and it was like, okay, maybe they can get back to this, get back to doing well, and then just the Oilers ran their show for the third period, and it's honestly just embarrassing for the Canucks because it's like, do you do you think that your periods are only 10 minutes long? Like, what is going on here?
And it's funny because you mentioned what Vancouver did. You mentioned the Pedersen and Aaronic goal. Because Vancouver, when Edmonton made this a 3-0 game, you saw a really strong pushback from Vancouver. Chris Knobloch calls a timeout to calm things down, and it looked like Vancouver was going to be able to eventually tie this game up. They're getting great chances on Stuart Skinner, but Vancouver just couldn't break on through again, and there was a major letdown. And after Chris Knobloch called that timeout, the momentum Vancouver had was fully sucked out of the building in my mind. They really just couldn't sustain the momentum when Knobloch calmed things down and said, listen, we are playing right now with our backs against the wall. And other coaches, like I think Chris Knobloch last year might have panicked a little bit, but I'm seeing Knobloch now getting more use again to being an NHL bench boss. He knows, hey, calm down you players, let's sort things out, let's not play through this. And being able to calm things down hurt Vancouver tonight, Kaja.
I think it should be embarrassing for Rick Tocchet if Chris Knobloch can come in, because Rick Tocchet, he's experienced not only as a player but also somewhat as a coach, both assistant and head coach otherwise. And if I'm Rick Tocchet, I'm embarrassed that I got out-coached by a guy who's not even in his second full year of doing this. I mean, that just shows, how good of control and just knowledge for what's going on in the game that Chris Knobloch has. But if I'm Rick Tocchet, like Stanley Cup winner Rick Tocchet, I'm like looking myself in the mirror after and just what happened there? Why? Like, I understand it slows the momentum down. At the same time, how are you not able to keep that momentum going? What's going on in the dressing room between periods? Is the, I don't know, the restaurant that's right next to your tunnel the problem? Like, I don't know what's going on.
That's a really good question. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I know that's a good point you make. Rick Tocchet's been here, done that. Again, Stanley Cup winning player with Pittsburgh, coached around the league with various clubs, with Tampa, Arizona, with Vancouver now. And the fact that Knobloch was able to, in a way, outcoach me, figure things out is a little bit of an indictment for what's gone on early in this season. And I'm watching this game again, Kai, and someone who I liked a lot in Edmonton, but who struggled in Vancouver on the back end, has been Vinny Desharnais. He has had a tough experience as a Canuck, and he's someone who, he had a lot of growth in Edmonton last year, but now in Vancouver, a lot of that growth seems to be undone watching him play for the Canucks.
Yeah, maybe it's just, he's still getting used to Tocchet's system or something like that. When they signed Desharnais, I was honestly just very confused because, in my opinion, I was like, there are better options out there, but hey, they decided to give it a shot. And I don't know, the Canucks have shown that they're not afraid to move on from players that they don't think benefit from the system. Like, they traded Daniel Sprong yesterday,
Yes.
just out of nowhere for future considerations. So I'm not sure, were those future considerations the only players out there tonight?
The idea is such a weird thing, future considerations, because they be coming back, they be getting some back in a week, in a month, in 2 months. It could be a Costco hot dog. I know Costco's right there near Rogers Arena. Like, we don't know what's gonna be.
Yeah, no, they should. Seattle, the future considerations is just like in a week, the Canucks are gonna open up a package that they got addressed to them, and it's from Seattle. It's just like a fish from Pike Place.
Just
I couldn't think of it as like a fish and maybe like one of those like fancy mugs from the Starbucks that's there because it's like the original. I don't know. I could see that happening just for fun. But no, I genuinely like Desharnais has been not great for the Canucks, but it's also kind of, he's part of an overall decor that is just struggling throughout. Quinn Hughes leads the team in points, and I don't think he's playing his best hockey right now. So
no, that's a really good point. And you know who is doing their best? Our friends at LaRouche. Game Over Network is an independent production focused on community, inclusion, and quality people. If you're interested in supporting the Game Over Network, we have crowdfunding options available. In the description of this episode, you'll find a link to our Patreon page, and we're also working on a page through LaRouche, a crowdfunding platform for companies originating in Quebec for LaRouche. We're aiming to raise $15,000, and if we hit that goal, we'll gain access to government grants that will allow us to employ more people. And I know you want to see that happen. If you have any ideas for what you'd like to see us give for giveaways for these crowdfunding efforts, please let us know in the comments on Twitter, Instagram, and in our Discord server. Alright, a little second period action coming your way now on Game Over Crossover, hosted on the Game Over Vancouver channel. So Kai, I do want to ask, we talked about guys who struggled, guys who you want to see improve. Who is a Canuck that you've been impressed by the entire year? I know it's early, but who's been a name, game in, game out, that you've been impressed by no matter what?
Oh, because you said throughout the entire year, and it feels like it's just a tale of many, like every different week there's a player who's amazing, and the next week it's like they get milkshake ducked. Like it's it's not good. I don't even know who would be the best player right now, because I would say Elias Pettersson had a great game. Elias Pettersson has not had a good season. JT Miller did not have a good game tonight. Quinn Hughes, I just said, like, he's been, yeah, sure, he's putting up points, but he is not the same defensively that, you know, he needs to be. I don't even know who to claim is. It's hard. It's really hard, because it's just like I don't. This team is just kind of existing. It feels like, I would say. I know Garland. I would say Connor Garland probably.
Okay.
I feel like that's a fair assessment, just because he's pretty consistent with his play, and this isn't the first time that we've seen him do that. It was also in 2021-22 when the Canucks started really badly, or they were just very. It was not as bad as 22-23, but it was still pretty bad. Like, we're doing better now, but it was still pretty bad back then. It was under Travis Green still. And yeah, the entire team just felt like it was MIA except for Connor Garland. So I feel like we're back in that territory right now. I don't like that. It's I don't even want to say Lankinen, because like he'll have good performances, and sometimes even if he doesn't allow as many goals as, 7, um even like he made that wild save
Yes.
with his stick, and then allows like what, 4 more goals? Like that was what is going on? I can't even give the flowers to Lankinen because of stuff like that. And I know it's a difficult situation to be like, okay, this is the guy to back up Sheloves. Oh yeah, now you're starting like every single game, and we also have no idea when our real starter's coming back. So, I know it's a tough situation. I'm tail end of it. Connor Garland is the best Canuck,
Hey,
because he's been the most consistent.
we'll take that. And you mentioned right there, this team had just been existing. I think Edmonton was in that exact same spot, just existing, until McDavid broke out again tonight and Draisaitl did their thing, because Edmonton was just existing when it came to anyone not named McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, and Jeff Skinner, in which it was like just this mushy middle that would chip in every once in a while for Edmonton, and then we got to the bottom 6. It just wasn't there. Defense to anybody not named Bouchard, Ekholm, or Ty Emberson, who I thought had a good game as well. Emberson had a good game as well. Him and Kulak, again, I thought looked great for Edmonton tonight in this game. So this was a battle of two teams who really were just trying to exist in a division that is still. I still think the division right now, I think the Pacific is still the most volatile in hockey, because we could be looking back here, Kaya, in a month, and Edmonton and Vancouver have gained more ground on the Golden Knights because we've seen before this division go from the worst to being one of the more competitive ones in hockey in recent seasons.
Yeah, I would say the division overall, I mean, it's certainly an interesting division. I will say that. Because you have like last year, you have teams like the Stanley Cup finalists, Edmonton Oilers, the Canucks who were very good, the Jets who were very good, Colorado who's still hanging around after winning the cup a couple years ago. And that, or okay, I went a little outside. I was thinking West overall. Um, and I realized I caught myself. Okay, but with the Pacific Division, you have these teams that are very good. Vegas, oh my gosh, oh
Yep,
my gosh.
Vegas.
I completely forgot about Vegas. You have LA that's still hanging in there, and then you have teams like the Ducks and the Sharks, and it's just it's weird. I feel like the West is always it's not as packed as say the Atlantic is right now, but as a grouping that was always like, oh, it's whatever because the teams are all kind of meh. It's not, it's more competitive now. Still not as tight as the Atlantic, but it's it's definitely one to keep your eye on, I would say.
Yeah, I would say the Pacific Division gives us the most. I would say it gives us the most comedy. I would say it gives us the most comedy in all
Mm-hmm.
of hockey because people like seeing what's gonna happen. They like the chaos out of Edmonton because every year there's at least one chaotic storyline out of Edmonton. Vancouver, right here, you mentioned we don't know when Demko's gonna return, so it's still Shelovs and Lankinen sharing the net. We had jersey tossing. We have people calling out Rick Tocchet for many reasons. There's so many teams in which you're never going to be bored by watching this division play because at any given moment, there's going to be at least 3 or 4 storylines that are just too absurd to be real between these teams.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Like everything that goes on in the Pacific is absurd, and I feel like it's either talked about a lot or it just goes completely under the radar because everyone's asleep by the time the games end. Um, that's just me. Um, but yeah, it's definitely the funniest, the most comedic, I'd say, because I swear every time you watch like a NHL funniest moments video and it's you know that one clip of Sharky when he gets stuck?
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like that's in everything. So that can be tacked onto the Pacific. Calgary having a mascot that has a tongue that can get removed. It's it's wild. Specifically with these two teams though, I mean the Oilers are have two of the best players in the entire league, and yet they're constantly in a conversation of are is their roster enough to make a deep run? Obviously it
Mm-hmm.
was last year. Obviously it has been for a bit, but
Yeah.
it's like there's I'm thinking about something that was brought back on Hyperdrive Hockey actually, where it's they're in the similar position of the Leafs, where it's like they have a really strong forward group, which I mean it's I was about to say smaller for the Oilers, but not exactly in terms of last year with Hyman getting as many goals as he did. Um, but it's the same situation of what's the decor like, what's goaltending like, and the season really hinging on those aspects. And then the Canucks, I feel like it's held together by glitter glue and Cheerios. At times, that's what it feels like. Glitter glue, Cheerios, and the power of friendship. I remember the Rangers run to the Eastern Conference Final in 2022. They lost to Tampa, but that whole run was just like, oh yeah, they're running on the power of friendship. That's how I feel like the Canucks have just been operating for literal years, even though, you know, they fight each other at practices all the time. I still think that's the vibe. At the same time, the vibe should be more than 20 shots on Stuart Skinner of all goaltenders. No disrespect to Edmonton, But the Vancouver Canucks, with the firepower that they have, I understand Brock Besser is out, and I understand that sucks. But it's Stuart Skinner. It's not Prime Brodeur. It's not Prime Hasek. It's Stuart Skinner. You can get more than 7 shots max per period on him. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Anyway.
Yeah, no, you're entirely right. You're not going to win many games getting less than 20 shots on net, no matter who the goaltender is. And that was a major issue that Edmonton hammered Lankin. Edmonton got a lot of shots on Lankin tonight. They hammered him. They got 31 shots on him tonight. And yeah, Vancouver being limited to under 20 shots, that's not going to win you many games. It isn't going to win you a playoff series or get you far at all come April or May. And what Skinner faced for the most part, he handled quite well. Edmonton got a good Stuart Skinner, and Edmonton just needs Stuart Skinner to be okay, and they'll be fine. He was okay. He got them the win. But yeah, for Vancouver, you got to find a way to get 20, 25 shots on net, and Vancouver couldn't do that tonight.
Yeah, there was a part that was brought up on the broadcast of should Langdon have been pulled after the 3-0. And have Shelov's brought in because Shelov's hasn't played a lot. Lankinen played has played the majority, the heavy majority of the games this season. Because Shelov's had some trouble early on, and you know what? He's still young. He's still understanding, and they brought still understanding how NHL hockey is compared to. I mean, he's been in the AHL for a while as well. Lankinen has lots of NHL experience, so I understand giving him the net consistently, and if he's doing well, he's doing well. At the same time, should he have been pulled because he was looking at the bench he was looking at the bench like, hey guys, I don't know what's going on. But yeah, so I did the math. There were 4 shots when Shelovs came in because he came in with like after the 7th goal, so he had a perfect save percentage tonight for the 4 shots he faced in the third period. He played 8 minutes and 55 seconds. So good job, Archers. Kevin Lankinen let in the first period 1 goal on 10 shots, 2 goals on 5 shots in the second, and then 4 on 12 in the third, for 7 goals on 27 shots in total. I did the math. That is less than every 4th shot going in.
Yeah, that is troubling. That is very troubling if you're the Canucks coaching staff.
That's very troubling if you're completely not like if you're standing outside of Rogers Arena and you're just like looking at the stats and you're like that doesn't sound right. It's not good. It's not good. This team is trying to make a name for itself, trying to build back their identity, trying to not be the laughing stock of the Pacific Division, or Canadian NHL teams in general, and it's not working right now.
No, no, it is not. And I want to point out, I know we mentioned goaltending here. I want to point out an interesting note that was tweeted by Dan Tenser, the former 630 Ched radio host here. He used to do the postgame show in Edmonton. At Dan Tenser tweeted out, and I quote, interesting. Stu clearly upset in the handshake line. Multiple guys trying to calm him down. Not happy after the last goal that made it a 7-3 Edmonton game. Love the passion, but you're up by a touchdown. And that is interesting because Stuart Skinner is not the kind of goaltender who loses his cool very often. He's very calm, very composed, very, you know what, move on to the next game. Even though they won, hearing that about Stuart Skinner is a little bit surprising. And I guess it shows as well that, Stuart wants better for himself, for the guys in front of him. I thought that was very interesting to see probably the most calm and composed goaltender in the league being angry after a victory.
Yeah, they showed a clip of that on the broadcast, and it was like him hitting his post, and I was like, yeah, I mean, I kind of understand it because he wants to be better for his team, but his team definitely showed up for him.
Mm-hmm.
I I don't know. I think at times he's a little bit hard on himself, and yeah, sure, he's I will admit I was clowning on him a little bit, but I do think that he's not he's not the worst goalie in the NHL. So I don't know. I think part of me is like that kind of brings in the mentality though of the Oilers versus the Canucks right now, because the Canucks, like, you wouldn't see that tonight, especially. It felt like they were half asleep, and and whereas Stuart Skinner is still like, damn, I really wish I didn't let that third goal in.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas people in the Canucks replies when Pia Suter scored was, Chris Paul cuts the lead to 42. That's that's what I was seeing on my end, and it's, yeah. How did Okay? Vasily Podkolzin had a better night statistically than JT Miller did.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he did.
Ah.
Yeah, but Colson, he's someone who I'm seeing him over here more and more get more confident when it comes to getting to the net, carrying the puck, being physical. His game in Edmonton is developing, and you're seeing him do things I didn't really notice that him do that much in Vancouver. And I know it's early. I know we're not even at the 25 game mark yet, but I'm seeing a lot of good things from Paul Colson so far as an Oiler, Kaya.
Oh yeah, no, I think he wasn't given as much opportunity to grow here, which is weird saying because you see players leaving Edmonton because they don't have enough opportunity to grow because of how just stacked Edmonton is. Um, but I think he wasn't given fair opportunities in the lineup here. And I guess Talkit thought he didn't improve as much, so they shipped him out because, like I said earlier, Talkit's not afraid of pointing out who's not fitting in his system and making sure they find a system that works for them. Yeah, I, I'm glad to see that he's, doing pretty well, because in a new market, I think change of scenery can also be an aspect of that as well. I Yeah, I still I think the Canucks were a little just lost on that trade, but at the same time, there wasn't exactly a spot for him on the roster with all the wingers that they had. So,
No. No, I see what you mean. And there's more content for you to come tomorrow. Because after Game Over, actually, well, not tomorrow, well, Tuesday, after the holiday, there's more content for you to come with Game On. Game On has you covered. Our boy Graham Mosman is going to be up giving you content in a 10-minute video or less, Monday through Friday when it's not a holiday, on the Game Over Network YouTube channel and in podcast form, which you can find on the Game Over Network, on GameOverNetwork.com, Game Over Hockey. Graham's got you there, and maybe some other friends will be hopping on, host Game Over as well too. Game On. So tap into Game On Monday to Friday. Graham's got you covered there every morning. All right, third period stuff. So I gotta ask you, Kai, this is the most important part of Edmonton, Vancouver. Nothing to do with on the ice, but whenever these teams play, social media is always ridiculous. And it appeared to kind of calm down today because we saw last season the playoffs, Edmonton, Vancouver, 7-game series. It was peak drama, not on the ice, but on Twitter, on Instagram. Something about these two markets, you give them a Twitter account and they go buck wild between Oiler and Canuck fans, Kaya.
oh, it's the funniest nights on the calendar for sure. In the Canucks Twitter market, and I don't know. I I am someone who is limiting my Twitter usage, I will admit. But I had to like go through and have a glance at what's going on, and yeah, off the ice, Canucks and Oilers fans, how we got to this point, I don't know. It's also probably one of the more entertaining rivalries in this whole division. Like, you have the Battle of Alberta, and then you have the Canucks versus Alberta, I would say, just in general, because I think the Flames fans, there's not as much animosity when it comes to online stuff specifically.
No.
But when it's online, it's Oilers versus Canucks. Ooh, it's a time. Apparently in person too, though, because half of Rogers Arena was Oilers fans tonight.
Really? I didn't know that.
Not half, but near the tail end of the game, there was a "Let's go Oilers." I mean, they were probably the last ones in the building because Canucks fans, I would understand why you would want to leave that. But yeah, the Oilers fans really showed up, and I don't know, is it something about the price of tickets at Rogers Arena? Let's blame the seats. Those seats are comfortable, and I'm sad, okay? I understand we all want cup holders, but those seats are comfy.
You know what? I guess it makes sense because, hey, there's a lot of flights every day from Edmonton to Vancouver. You can go to Vancouver pretty easily. There's a lot of Albertans who live out in BC. So I guess it does make sense to have the barn packed with Edmontonians in there. But hey, I'll say the same thing too. Whenever Canuck fans come to Edmonton, Canuck Edmonton games are always packed as well in Rogers Place. I mean, I saw it last year. Last year's games being in the building, it was tense with Canuck fans in the building last summer.
Yeah, I could imagine. I remember I went to a game in Toronto. It was the Canucks versus the Leafs, and I was there as a Canucks fan, and I was in the lower bowl area, so notoriously very suits like, and
Yes.
still there were a number of Canucks fans around us, so we were still every time the Canucks had a lead and then they blew it, because of course they did. Um it was the atmosphere was still very like I got booed a few times in the hallway. But that was the most interesting kind of face-offs between fans that I've seen was I went to the Habs game versus the Canucks here when the Habs had a 4-0 lead going into the first intermission, and then the Canucks won 7-6 in overtime. I was at that game, and a lot of Habs fans in Vancouver. Oh, it was a time.
Oh, I believe that. I definitely do believe that. So I do want to ask you before we head to overtime, will there ever be a truce between Oilers fans and Canuck fans on Twitter or in person? Will there ever be a day of peace between these two fan bases?
No. Like, the amount of stuff I've seen, even in the off season, like, I'd have friends that would tweet something about not even related to the Canucks. It would be about their kids, and then Oilers fans would be in their mentions talking about how they beat us in the playoffs. There is no it's and I'm not saying Canucks fans don't do it either, but it's a relentless rivalry. I don't think that it's going to cease anytime soon. I mean, maybe when Connor McDavid forces the trade out, we'll see, but
Oh, jeez.
I'm just Josh, and I would hope a truce would be fine when Connor Brown gets almost a hat trick against us, but we take what we can get.
Yes, it was a very Connor heavy game tonight in Rogers Arena. But you know what? You know what will bring a truce to the people? Getting yourself some Game Over swag. There you go. Look at that on screen. And hit that QR code to head to the Game Over store. Look at those. Look at that. So you got hoodies, you got shirts, you got mugs. It's the kind of stuff you want. Help us out. Get some content. Get some stuff. What better way to support us by rocking Game Over merchandise? Game Over's apparel line has dropped with 3 unique designs. Whether you want to rock the nostalgic feel or retro skater design, if you want to make a statement with our established design currently on sale, or do you want to show your love for goaltenders proudly, rock the Live or Die by the goaltender design. Or if you just need a coffee mug to get you through these cold winters, I mean, it's colder in Edmonton than in Vancouver. They're very mild in Vancouver, lucky. Then we got stuff for you right there as well. And this gear is designed by our boy, Brady Chalice from Game Over Winnipeg. So hey, hit that QR code on screen right now. Go get some gear. Get a Christmas gift. Get some for yourself. Get some for your auntie, your uncle, that cousin you can't stand. Make that truce between that cousin and you. Go on there and help support local sports media while repping some Game Over gear. All right. Overtime, y'all.
Can I bring up what Rick Tocchet said?
Uh-oh, let's hear it.
We're not getting to our game early enough. You're not getting to your game at all, bro. Like, what are you doing? It's... we're not getting to our game early enough.
Wow.
What are you talking about? You're not getting to your game at all. This is like... the Canucks have a pretty good roster, and they're absolutely just blowing it up whenever they step on home ice. It's like Lando Norris on pole. Nothing is working out here. That's very niche for all the F1 fans out there. Yeah, I think we mentioned at the top of the broadcast, but the Canucks somewhat being like the Whitecaps, because
Yes.
the Whitecaps always feel like they're better on the road. They were better on the road this year, for this MLS, Major League Soccer. The Vancouver Whitecaps, they had a 5-0 playoff win on the road. Sure, yes, they won their next home playoff game. Anyway, the Canucks, they're starting to look like that. They're 6-1 away.
That is interesting. That's a stat.
Like, I saw somebody on Twitter say they should blow up Rogers Arena and have the Canucks just play the rest of the season away.
Become a traveling team rest of the season.
You know what? If it means we win, I will support it. Oh no, we have a negative goal differential.
Uh-oh. Wah, 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 wah.
At least it's not bad as a -8 for Edmonton.
Oh.
Anyway.
Oh my gosh. Anyways, we'll get to overtime. Not too many questions here tonight. We do have a comment from Conrad from Game Over Calgary. Tonight's game, it wasn't Cavalry versus Forge, though. More soccer references. The CanPL final was today in Calgary. Cavalry got their first championship, knocking off Forge, denying Forge a three-peat in CanPL. Congrats to Calgary. Congrats to Calgary soccer fans. They finally saw a championship at Spruce Meadows. And I know it's a hockey show, but hey, that's still cool to see it because Calgary's been one of the better teams in CanPL since the formation, and they've been denied so many times the chance to get a championship. So they got their first ever championship tonight in front of their home fans.
Yeah, isn't it great when your soccer team wins playoff games? Anyway, I'm a Whitecaps fan, in case you couldn't tell by the everything about me, and they lost 1-0 in the worst goal ever last night to LAFC. So, yeah. Hey, at least Miami lost. I was keeping tabs on that game. Like, I was making sure, I was like looking at the Canucks, obviously, because I was working earlier tonight, and I was looking at the Canucks game. But I was also like, okay, what's going on in Miami? And then I was like, okay, Atlanta's winning. Oh, Atlanta's winning more. And it was, yeah, Messi scored. Woo! Script writers win, but Atlanta wins overall. And yeah, it's kind of fun to see because I have a little vendetta against Miami as a Whitecaps fan for what specifically this year Miami for how they did us. But
yes, how Messi.
I wasn't even going to that game. I was I was just tired of getting asked about it because I flood my Whitecaps ishness, and I remember going to work like a day after it happened and being like, so what's with the Messi thing? And I'm like, oh my gosh.
See, if we ever have a network Game Over MLS, I guarantee you're gonna have Kaja hosting that show as ever Game Over MLS expansion one day.
Oh, I would that would be a fun time. With the Whitecaps, I get very passionate about it. You think I'm passionate about the Canucks? Oh, because I think because the Canucks, they have so many teams around them and so much other stuff going on, and they just play so frequently, whereas the Whitecaps don't play as much. I feel like that's why I'm like hit harder by Whitecaps losses than I am with Canucks losses, but that's also just me. And also maybe because I expect the Canucks to lose.
I mean, hey, fair. And my last point on that is yes, Atlanta knocked out Inter Miami in their best of 3 series, winning 2-1. And I don't have a hate against Miami, but I did chuckle because I know some people at Apple TV are probably furious that Miami lost in round 1 in one of the biggest upsets in MLS history.
Yeah, I don't necessarily I don't hate Miami, I don't hate them, but as somebody who has had to watch the MLS Apple TV Plus ads over and over and over again when watching Caps games, just games in general, as someone who had to watch that so many times, the one with the pink goat, like it's a little funny. It's a little funny.
No, it absolutely is. And before we sign off for the night, Kai, any final thoughts on this game, the Canucks' upcoming schedule? Any final thoughts on the Canucks here as they look to rebound after tonight's loss to Edmonton?
If they lose to Calgary, on Tuesday, I think that warrants the jersey toss-up tonight. If they beat Calgary, then whoever threw that jersey, I think, should be publicly shamed. Like old-time ways, like bring out the bell or whatever. That was a Game of Thrones thing. I don't know if that was historically accurate, but not my responsibility for histories. I wasn't alive. I I don't have a lot of thoughts on the Canucks because I don't think they have many thoughts themselves.
Wow. And on that note, thank you for tuning in to Game Over Crossover. Edmonton wins 7-3. Please like, subscribe, and comment to all the Game Over Network channels across the country. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your frenemies. For Kaja, I'm Avery. We're out. Later. Enjoy Saturday night. Don't get too turned tonight.